My fiancé Joshua and my brother Larry have hated me for 10 years. They were convinced I bullied the girl they liked, Stella. At our engagement party, they exposed my supposed misdeeds to everyone. She's nothing but a bully. In the live stream video, Stella smiled through her tears. I don't blame her anymore. Looking back, everything changed. Stella went viral overnight. I, however, got sulfuric acid thrown at me by crazy fans, and in despair, died with Stella. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my senior year of high school. Stella was there, pouring water over her head, smirking. So, have you thought about how you're going to apologize to me? I snapped. I dragged her into the bathroom, shoving her head into the toilet. Let me show you what real bullying is. With that dirty mouth of yours, make sure to clean up a bit before you run off to tattle. As for my last memory from my past life, it was the excruciating pain of acid splashing into my eyes. Enduring the agony, I found Stella, protected by my brother. I grabbed a cake knife and charged at her, plunging it into her chest. Let's go to hell together. Opening my eyes again. The clarity of everything around me stunned me for a moment. Until I saw a much younger Stella nearby. She was in her faded school uniform, turning on the faucet, pouring water over her head. Smiling, she asked me, "Do you think they'll believe you or me?" It hit me suddenly. This was the day. The day I was first accused of bullying her in my previous life. Stella's smile widened as I stood there in shock. Thought about how to apologize, Luna? Old and new grudges surged within me. I charged at her, grabbed her hair, and dragged her to the bathroom. Her screams were piercing as I pushed her face into the toilet. A little cold water and you think you can frame me? Here, let me show you real bullying. Stella struggled wildly, her arms flailing like turbines, but she couldn't break free from my hold. Her face was submerged in the dirty water, her voice muffled as she cried. Luna, let me go. I laughed. With that filthy mouth of yours, make sure it's clean before you tattle. Whether this was a trip back in time or a post-death delusion, I didn't care. I went completely mad. In my previous life, I died on the day of my greatest triumph. That day, I won my third Best Actress award, dressed in a custom gown, with my fiancé Joshua by my side at a widely broadcast engagement party. Then he announced to the world, I will not be engaged to someone who bullied classmates in high school. In disbelief, I watched. Stella walked out from the audience. Tears glittered in her eyes as she smiled up at me. Luna, remember me? The Stella you bullied for 10 years? You probably never expected I would stand as your equal one day. But it's okay, I don't blame you anymore. Broadcast live online, she became an overnight sensation. Before I could react, a horde of journalists arranged by my brother Larry and Joshua swarmed around me. Ms. Luna, they say you still bully newcomers on set? Were you visiting the gynecologist recently because of an STI from your promiscuous lifestyle? An extreme fan burst through the crowd and threw acid in my face. Die, you witch. The fluid burned as it splashed across my skin. I never saw clearly again. Falling from grace happened in the blink of an eye. Coming back to my senses, I released my grip. Watching Stella collapse weakly to the ground. That innocent, pure face now covered in filth. I couldn't hold back my laughter. Scream, cry, go tell the world I bullied you, go ahead. Raising my voice suddenly. Remembering the searing pain of acid on my face, I stomped on her face a couple more times. Then I turned to leave. Downstairs, my best friend Amy waited. PE class started ages ago, what were you doing up there? I shrugged casually, oh, just bullying a new student. Her head whipped around in shock, what? I said, a famous author said once, if the world already thinks you're a bully, you might as well be one. Did that author really say that? It doesn't matter. Amy and I walked to the field and bumped into Joshua. We're not in the same class. But everyone at school knows he's my boyfriend. Joshua's eyes barely grazed me before settling somewhere behind me. Luna, why so late? Heard there's a new transfer student in your class? In my past life, every time Stella accused me, he would always insist I apologize to her and let it blow over. He seemed to be on my side. But his words confirmed my reputation as a bully. Remembering this, I slapped him out of nowhere. Amy stood shocked again. Joshua's face remained unchanged. His eyes went cold for a second, then he leaned in, nuzzling my cheek affectionately. What's wrong, Luna? Bad mood? In my past life, it wasn't until much later that I learned. Joshua was left at a playground by his mom as a child and stayed in an orphanage for a while. There, he met a sunny little girl. She shared a bed with him and gave him candy. She was the only light in his life. That light was Stella. And he recognized her the day she transferred here. He always believed in her stories about me bullying her, hated me to the core. But due to his status as an illegitimate child, he had to endure and flatter me. Because he needed to secure his place in the family through our marriage. Thinking of this, I said, let's break up. His eyes widened. Why? Give me a reason, Luna. I pulled out a tissue, wiping away where he had nuzzled. I don't want to date my surrogate mother's son. It feels dirty. Is that reason enough? After leaving, Amy asked cautiously if I'd gone crazy. I'm not surprised she asked. Because in high school, I was head over heels for Joshua. I waited for him after school every day, baked cookies despite all the burns, and smiled as I gave them to him. My favoritism was so obvious the whole world knew. But things are different now. The Luna who just started her senior year is gone. Standing here now is me, who died once. All day, there was no sign of Stella. I knew her pride was in that face. She wouldn't act unless she had a plan. I patiently waited. Soon it was Saturday, my 18th birthday party. My parents had promised to throw a grand celebration. But due to a last-minute work emergency, they had to arrive late. The chandelier lights gleamed brilliantly. I was wearing a haute couture little dress, walking down the spiral staircase to the living room. From afar, I spotted my brother Larry. He was all dressed up in a suit, with a look of indifference on his face, calling out to me, Luna, come over here. I walked up, pretending not to see Joshua's deep gaze behind him or Stella, who looked like she might cry any second. Smiling sweetly, I asked, what's up, big brother? Do you have a gift for me? Larry stared at me coldly for a moment and then spoke, bullying classmates and insulting friends. Luna, is this what our family taught you? He didn't lower his voice at all when he spoke. Suddenly, all the guests around turned their eyes towards us. What's my brother talking about? I have no idea. I looked at Stella, tilting my head. Who did I insult, and when did I bully any classmates? I don't even know her. It's too late to deny it now. If you did something wrong, you have to face the consequences. Mom and Dad aren't here today, so I'm disciplining you on their behalf. With that, Larry pulled a ruler from the nearby shelf, glanced at me sternly, and said, kneel down. The large reception hall was filled with people who seemed ready to watch the drama unfold. What, bullying classmates? I didn't know Luna would do something like that. She's been spoiled, it's normal to be envious of others doing better than her. Good thing her brother's setting things straight. Under Stella's smug and challenging gaze, I straightened my back. Smiling, I said, what nonsense are you talking about, brother? If someone who doesn't know you might think there's a ghost controlling you. I only kneel for the deceased ancestors. I tilted my head, looked him up and down, and laughed wickedly. How about this? If you go jump off a building right now, I'll kneel and bow 3 times to send you off. Larry's face darkened immediately. Behind him, Stella spoke up with fake sincerity. Luna, I know you don't like me, but even if you bully me, how can you speak to your own brother like that? Her eyes widened, tears lingering, striking a deliberately innocent and naive look. Beside her, Joshua's eyes momentarily darkened before he spoke softly. Luna, if you've done something wrong, just admit and apologize. There's no need. I widened my eyes in mock confusion. Sorry, I don't understand dog language. Could you repeat that in human? Enough. Larry snapped in a stern voice. Luna, as a girl, don't you have any shame? Who taught you to be so vulgar and uncultivated? Just like before, no matter what I said, he wouldn't believe me. Instead, he'd fixate on damning assumptions and pin me to a pillar of shame over and over. I tugged at my lips, mimicking his cold smirk. Mom and Dad are busy, no time to teach me. Who do you think it was? Of course, it's you, my dear brother. In my past life, I'd always feared and adored Larry. He's several years older and always seemed like an authoritative figure in my eyes. When I was little, with Mom and Dad busy with company matters, it was up to him to take care of me. Any minor mistake and I'd get hit with a ruler on the palm, or be banned from eating. I distinctly remember when I brought home a stray curly-haired puppy, and he wouldn't let the maid open the door for me. Dirty, such things aren't welcome at home. So, I had to sit with the puppy on the doorstep throughout the night. I was still young then, assuming that he just couldn't learn to be the gentle brother some families had. Then, Stella showed up. That's when I realized, Larry did know how to be gentle, just not with me. I saw him in the car offering Stella hot milk, patting her head, saying, make sure you eat 3 square meals a day. If you're short on cash, I'm here. I also saw Stella picking up a skinny stray cat on a rainy day, and him holding an umbrella for her, softly asking, do you want to keep it? And when Stella was drunk, tugging on his clothes and babbling nonsense, he'd listen patiently, his eyes filled with tenderness. In my previous life, I'd been trapped in a delusion of love. Confused why my brother didn't love me, why my fiancé didn't stand with me. Only with a new lifetime did I finally wake up. I am an independent person, and life goes on without love. The birthday party ended up being far from perfect. As I stood my ground against Larry, our parents eventually returned. They politely thanked the departing guests, sending them off. Stella tried to pull the same poor me act in front of my mom, but my mom just blocked her with a smile. Sorry dear, we'll handle our family matters on our own, please excuse us. Stella choked on her words, taking a sorrowful glance at Larry before finally leaving. When it was just me and Larry left, Dad finally spoke with authority. All right, now someone tell me what's going on here. Before Larry could respond, I jumped in. Recently, a transfer student started at our school. On her first day, she went crazy and poured water over her own head, claiming I did it, saying I bullied her. I later found out she was the underprivileged student Larry had been supporting, Stella. Larry, seated on the sofa, snapped his head towards me, shock written all over his face. Surprised, brother? Your sweetheart Stella, I discovered your little secret long ago. Red-eyed, I continued almost in tears. I wasn't even upset with her. It's just a birthday, I can let it go. I'm just saddened my brother won't believe me. There's not a monopoly on looking innocent, you know. In my tearful voice, Dad finally put an end to it. Enough, whether anyone was bullied or not, I don't want to hear any more about it. If this becomes big news, it won't be good for either of you. This ends here. Back at school, I openly bullied Stella. Dumping ink into her desk, laughing loudly at her accented English during class presentations, tearing her physics paper into pieces and sprinkling them over her head. Go on, tell on me again, I smiled. Isn't that your favorite thing to do? As a piece of paper floated down from her hair, she looked at me with deep-seated resentment. In the end, though, she just trembled, crying while apologizing. I'm sorry, Luna. If there's something I did that made you upset, I'm apologizing now. I'll change, okay? Your existence makes me unhappy. Intrigued, I raised my eyebrows. How are you going to change that? Are you going to die now? She opened her mouth but couldn't articulate a response, ending in more tears. Being the villain felt surprisingly satisfying. Of course, she reported it to the teachers. They called me into the office. I cried as I recounted the humiliating birthday incident and, finally, offered a hospital diagnosis. Ever since that day when she falsely accused me, having my brother humiliate me in front of so many people, I've been so distressed that I cry at the memory, even waking up from nightmares. I'm still seeing a therapist and taking meds. The doc says I'm severely depressed. In the end, the teacher has to turn around and comfort me. Everyone can tell that I don't like Stella. Amy can't understand. Why are you so against her? Did she do something bad? I look up and smile at her. Can't it be because I'm a bad chick, and I'm looking down on the new classmate with a poor background just 'cause I'm from a rich family? Give me a break. She rolls her eyes at me. If you were like that, why didn't you bully me? My family's way poorer than hers. On our first day as friends, you covered all my school supplies for 3 years. To believe you bully classmates is like believing I'm God. I get it. Yeah, everyone gets it. Except Larry and the person I like. I curl my lips, but there's no trace of a smile in my eyes. In a month, it'll be the school's 100th anniversary celebration. In a past life, Stella, set up by Larry and Joshua, performed a piano solo at the school anniversary night. She got noticed by the special admissions officer present and received the only special admission offer. And me? I had been dancing since I was 4, practiced for over a decade, and had prepared a classical dance piece. Then Joshua came to me. He held me in the sunset-filled campus and whispered, "Can you not perform? Luna, I don't want everyone to see how beautiful you are. It'd make me jealous. Just dance for me alone, okay?" Back then, I was such a fool. I smugly thought this was his way of showing he cared. So on the day of the performance, I really didn't go. I just danced for him repeatedly in the empty dance studio. When the song ended, cheers erupted from afar in the grand hall. Joshua heard it and suddenly laughed. He was always gentle and silent with me, his smile barely there, like it was shrouded in mist. It was the first time I saw such a clear emotional change in him. So I stopped dancing and naively asked, "Are you happy?" He paused for a moment, happy. At the time, I thought it was because I danced just for him. Much later, I found out. He was happy because Stella's performance was a huge success. The only light in his life was now headed for a bright future. I submitted the dance program I had prepared for ages. But this time, it wasn't a solo. I pulled in every girl in the class who was interested in performing and choreographed a group classical dance. I paid for our instructor, bought the most expensive costumes, and got the best props. Compared to all that, Stella's simple white dress piano solo seemed way too plain. No idea what she cried to Larry about. That night, when I was headed home after school, he blocked me in the garden. "Luna." Larry looked at me with zero expression. "Your program for the anniversary show, withdraw it." I smiled a bit. "Larry, what nonsense are you on about now? Don't think I'm discussing this with you." There was a cold, mocking glint in Larry's eyes. "If you must go, face the consequences." I stopped in my tracks and stared at his icy eyes. "Bro, is your Stella so lacking in confidence that she can't beat me in a competition, even after 10 years of piano lessons? How pathetic." With just a few days until the anniversary show, Joshua found me. "Luna. I messed up last time. But you've blocked me on everything and refused to see me. I don't know what's going on, Luna. Do you misunderstand me, or have you fallen for someone else?" His voice caught a bit on the last words, like it was tinged with real pain. "But you even said it yourself that you'd always like me best." A surge of anger mixed with sharp pain shot through me. I used to have a genuine crush on him for so many years. He said he didn't like me doing kissing scenes, so I turned down a lot of big director offers. He said Stella had a tough background, got bullied in her orphanage, and not to hold things against her. I forgave her offenses time and again. I just wanted to exchange my heart for his. Instead, all I got was 10 years of their slander and hatred. At that moment, I didn't even want to pretend anymore. I grabbed Joshua's collar and shoved him hard against the tree trunk behind. He sucked in a sharp breath from the pain, and before he could speak, I slapped him hard across the face. I didn't hold back at all. His pale face turned red and swollen instantly. I leaned in close, speaking clearly. You knew Stella way back, I found out. If you like her so much, why come here pretending to care for me? Want to keep me stringing along, using me, while you chase after Stella? You're just as low as your mother, a mistress. At the last word, the storm brewed in his eyes. But he couldn't get another word out. I scoffed, let go of him, and walked away. That night, I had a dream. A rare dream about what happened after I died in the past life. After the cake knife was stabbed into Stella's chest, I died from the intense pain. She was rushed to the hospital. Outside the hospital room, Joshua grabbed Larry and asked. You said you'd arrange everything, you'd protect her. Larry brushed off his hand, replying coldly. I already agreed to share her with you. How could a bastard like you manage the Luna family without my help? Don't overstep your bounds. Joshua staggered back a bit, retorting. Was it you helping me? Clearly His words cut off. Larry snickered. Yeah, it was my sister helping you, but she's dead now. It was you who contacted someone to throw acid on her, forgotten that? Joshua stood silently. The emergency room light flashed. Stella was wheeled out. The doctor said, the patient is still in critical condition. Joshua's gaze flicked over her pale face. And he spoke calmly, I haven't forgotten. And I've never regretted it. I woke up from the dream, stumbling into the bathroom, and hung onto the toilet, retching for ages. When I straightened up and saw myself in the mirror, my bloodshot eyes were filled with hatred. Not regretting it. I muttered, it's fine, this life, you'll regret everything. Even being born. Just wait and see. On the day of the school anniversary show, I ran into Stella by the man-made lake. She wore a low-key, luxurious silver mini dress, sporting an expensive diamond necklace. I knew at once, Larry probably bought it to comfort her. Luna, do you think being a rich heiress can always protect you? You've been bullying me for so long, you really think I won't fight back? I'll make you pay 1,000 times over. So what if you know about Joshua and me? He's in love with me, and your brother loves only me too. People like you won't ever be loved by anyone. She said so much, and I just smiled and replied. Does toilet water taste good? Then I walked away, leaving her with that stunned look on her face. In the evening, the fiery sunset slowly spread across the sky. The girls and I and the dance crew changed into our performance outfits and rushed from the dance studio to backstage, holding up our skirts. Halfway there, I realized an important prop for the final curtain call was missing. Did I leave it in the dance studio? I thought about it and decided to go back and get it. Amy asked, want me to go with you? It's alright, it's not heavy, I can manage. I laughed and told her, you guys head to the backstage, put on makeup, and organize the props with the stage crew. The big building was eerily empty. I held up my beautiful golden skirt and marched up the stairs. As I was about to reach the dance studio floor, I stopped. There was someone standing a few steps ahead. The golden red light of the sunset shone in from the window, illuminating only half of his face while the rest was shrouded in darkness. His eyes were like deep whirlpools. Joshua. He spoke in a low voice, sounding like he was holding back a storm that was about to break. Luna, what are you doing? None of your business, buzz off. I tried to walk past him up the stairs. But suddenly, a huge force hit my shoulder. My mind paused for a second. When I realized what had happened, my body felt light, I was already falling backward. Behind me were dozens of tall steps. I landed heavily on the stairs and tumbled down, pain spreading everywhere. I ended up by the iron railing, feeling a slight crack in my ankle bone. Joshua walked down the stairs step by step and stopped beside me. His eyes were calm yet sad. But when he spoke, his voice was cold. Luna, don't blame me. You've had everything since you were born. Even if you miss this chance, you have many paths to choose from. But Stella is different. She's done her best within her limits. After he finished speaking, he grabbed my sprained ankle. He moved my leg forcefully toward the iron railing. In my mind, scenes from a dream flashed by. He was standing outside a hospital room with my brother, looking lovingly at Stella being wheeled out of the emergency room. Yet when he spoke of me, his voice was indifferent. I never regretted it. 15 of the best years of my life. My deepest, most sincere love was tied to a person like that. I suddenly started laughing. Just before he could slam my leg against the railing, I pulled away from him hard. Useless. The pain from my sprained ankle made me catch my breath. But before Joshua could react, I yanked his hair and slammed his head into the railing. Sneaky low life, trying to harm me again? Dream on. His head hit the iron railing with a loud thud. His forehead struck a sharp corner, and bright red blood started flowing down. It dripped onto his clothes. Luna. I panted, let go of his hair, and stood up. My ankle kept throbbing with pain, but I didn't care. I looked at his eyes, which were unfocused from the pain, and slowly, I started to smile. So devoted, aren't you? Even willing to destroy me here, to give your Stella a future? Is this the warning Larry gave me? Did you plan to share her from the start? Disgusting. I lifted my skirt, wiping the blood off his face until the light fabric was stained all over. I left him there and ran into the darkening auditorium. From a distance, I could hear the graceful piano music coming from the hall. Stella was still playing the same piece from my past life, Debussy's Clair de Lune. She sat at a pure white grand piano on stage, wearing a silver dress. The stage was dark around her, except for a single spotlight, like a star shining in the night. Just like the past life, during my engagement party, she was stunningly beautiful, climbing over my blood and bones. I ran down the narrow path between the rows of seats. Pushed past the security guard and host trying to stop me. I climbed onto the stage. Standing in the only beam of light, I knocked Stella off the piano bench and pounded my fist on the piano. In her shocked, disbelieving eyes, I began to lose my mind. Play, I'll let you play. Sending Joshua to hurt me, and then acting all innocent here. Of course, I know. The special admissions officer that Larry invited is sitting in the audience. In my past life, after hearing Stella play Clair de Lune, he contacted her at the end of the performance and asked if she'd accept the only special admission spot. Stella agreed. It was her first step toward a bright future. Later, under Larry's careful planning, she was taken in as a disciple by a master in the music world at our school. Because I had to play a genius pianist with autism in a movie, my agent arranged for me to learn from that master. I only crossed paths with Stella briefly. That night, when I got home, Larry stopped me at the door. He looked at me with disgust. Luna, are you never going to stop? Just because you're not as good as Stella, you hate her so much, even tearing up the sheet music she copied for the teacher? What a rotten seed. I blanked out for a few seconds. When I realized what he said, I instinctively wanted to defend myself. But he cut me off with a wave of his hand. Lies. I won't believe a word of your excuses. Amidst the chaos in the audience, I heard someone scream. Blood, look at all the blood on her dress. With a dress stained by a mix of blood and dust, messy hair, and a swollen ankle, every detail proved the truth of my words. Stella clung to the piano stool, stumbling up. Her gaze at me was filled with deep hatred and resentment, but ultimately, she returned to her usual weak and innocent demeanor. Luna, I don't know what you're talking about, maybe there's some misunderstanding. But this is my performance. Out of respect for the audience, you shouldn't have barged in recklessly. Larry stood up from his seat in the audience, furiously reprimanding me. "Luna, are you crazy?" I ignored him, pushed Stella aside, and sat on the piano bench. I began to play Beethoven's Symphony of Fate. In my past life, to play genuinely in the movie without a hand double, I had spent 3 solid months learning this piece. I'm not an expert, but in this situation, it's more than enough. The intense piano notes mixed with a faint electric hum echoed through the vast dome of the auditorium. After finishing a section of Fate, I turned to her and declared firmly, "You ruined my birthday party, tried to mess up my relationship with my brother, spread rumors about me in front of my family and friends. Those are small things. I'll deal with them my way. But having Joshua push me down the stairs, trying to break my leg just so I wouldn't show up on this stage? That's crossing a line." I paused, watching her face go pale, then let out a scoff. "The piano is your pride and joy, but you don't even have enough confidence to compete with me on stage?" The audience was in chaos. Finally, the teacher in charge of the school's anniversary performance pulled Stella and me off stage. The host came on to smooth things over. The next act was our group classical dance. I brushed past the girls performing it backstage. Amy, with tears in her eyes, ran up to me and grabbed my hand. "Are you hurt?" "I should have gone with you." "I'm fine." I smiled, patting her head to comfort her. "Go perform. We've practiced so long, give yourself a performance to be proud of." The first place in the school's anniversary performance would get a prize of 100,000. From the start, I choreographed that dance not for myself. Watching them take the stage, I felt some relief. Then, I let the pain and exhaustion envelop me and closed my eyes, slipping into darkness. I woke up in the hospital. That night, Larry burst into the room. "Luna, you're insane." He wanted to do things step by step, sending his muse to the spotlight. Like nurturing a flower until it blooms, finding immense satisfaction in it. "But, brother, why would I give you that chance?" "What now, brother?" Stella didn't even finish her piece. "Your plan to break my leg is now exposed. She won't get into the school she wanted anymore." I suddenly remembered something else. "Oh, and your accomplice Joshua is still lying in the hallway of the building. Make sure to send him to the hospital." As I laughed, grabbing the edge of the blanket, the pain radiated from my ankle, distorting my face slightly. In his eyes, I saw a reflection of myself, looking like a lunatic. Or maybe I'd been mad since that day in my past life when I died. Larry's face twitched slightly, anger flashed in his eyes but quickly returned to usual cold indifference. "Does it matter? Luna, even though Stella's performance failed, you couldn't dance either. Besides, your crazy behavior was all caught on camera. This time, you can't cover it up with a forged diagnosis. The school has already contacted Mom and Dad, they're planning to expel you." I burst into laughter. "Expelled? Do you think I care? Remember, Larry, I'm just like you, an heir from a wealthy family. As Joshua said, if one road is blocked, I have many others. From the start, my only goal was to take Stella down. That's it. The false accusations she made in the past, I'll make them all true. The paths she took, I'll block them." I caused a scene at the school's celebration, even hit Joshua and Stella. The bullying rumors I started about Stella at school spread online, causing quite a stir. The drama between a rich girl and a poor one always has enough buzz, whether 10 years ago or now. The difference this time was on stage, with my clear statements, my pitiful state, and that rabidly angry performance of fate. I even got some supporters. Maybe the rich girl isn't bullying the poor one? Listening to her music, she doesn't seem like the type. Is that guy serious? Predict things with music? Well, let's put it this way, she was a mess. Who bullies someone and ends up looking like that? Ahead of her time, she was a model of vitality. In the end, Amy's dance mates took to the internet to defend me. That's not who Luna is. Stella provoked her first. The online argument heated up. In the hospital, I wasn't sure how Larry explained things to Dad. Either way, the day I got discharged and went home, Dad looked at me coldly, neglect you for a bit, and you step so out of line. Since your school won't take you back, you'll go study overseas. Stay away for a while, wait till the news cools down, then come back. As expected, his attitude didn't surprise me. In the choice between me and Larry, he always sided with his son. Even when things happened at the engagement party in my past life, Dad never told me anything until my death, even though Larry couldn't have kept it from him. But none of that matters now. I brushed it off, saying, "All right. I know you've always wanted to study the arts. I can connect you to some performing arts schools." "No," I cut in quickly. "I want to study finance, business." Both of their faces showed brief surprise. When Dad looked at me again, a new layer of depth appeared in his gaze. My school application was quickly processed. Joshua's injuries were worse than mine. Even when I recovered, he was still in the hospital. I heard Stella visited him, comforting him, saying it wasn't his fault, it was my cruelty. Amy came to see me at home with a big bouquet of lilies. "Joshua tried to break your leg, and he's mad you're not more heartless?" I glanced at the bouquet. Wasn't that expensive? "The prize money was for all of you." "It's okay. We all pitched in a bit, knowing you were leaving, and sent me to buy it for you." Pressing the flowers into my hands, Amy took a deep breath, seemingly deciding something. "Luna. It just feels like you know things I don't ever since Stella transferred over, like something changed. I don't know how to say it, ignore me if I'm rambling." She carefully hugged me, avoiding the flowers. "Come back soon. When you return, I still want to be friends." The night before I left, Mom and I sat on the balcony as the evening breeze blew by. She looked like she wanted to say something but hesitated. I held her hand and looked into her eyes. "Mom, don't worry about me. In my past life, my mom died in a car accident. With her around, no matter how biased Dad was, Larry wouldn't dare make a move against me openly." The thought suddenly sent a chill through me. In my past life, towards the end, Larry was practically madly in love with Stella. Could there be more to my mom's sudden car accident? The thought made my heart skip a beat, and I clenched her hand a little tighter. "You really need to be safe and take care of yourself," I paused and added, "and be wary of Larry. Luna, something's different about you." My mom gave me a long look, sighing. "That's my fault. You used to be so naive, believing whatever anyone told you. Like when I said Joshua was unreliable, you would argue with me. For your birthday, I asked your dad for some shares, but you said jewelry and dresses were enough, which drove me crazy. I always hoped you'd be a bit smarter, a bit more cunning. But if all this change came at a terrible cost, I wish you could have stayed naive forever. What mom doesn't know her own child? In my previous life, I was gullible, always trusting people with a kind heart. That's why Stella tricked me numerous times, and I never truly retaliated against her. So, I ended up dying at my own engagement party." "No, Mom," I softly laughed, rubbing the corners of my eyes, now slightly red. "In this dog-eat-dog world, being overly kind only means you'll be bullied. It's unfortunate that I had to learn that lesson by dying once. When I went abroad with my suitcase that year, I was 18. Everything around me felt strange and new. But I wasn't afraid at all because I knew too much about what lay ahead. Even though the details were murky, I could pinpoint the major turning points, which was more than enough for me to make a lot of things happen. The most important moment was 2 years later. In my previous life, when I turned 20, Larry got wind of some insider information and flew to San Francisco to collaborate with a guy named Jack. Jack had cutting-edge core technology in his hands. Over the next 5 years, he helped Larry gradually but completely take over the company. Using the money my mom gave me, I invested all of it in the stock market. Thanks to some flickers of memories from my past life, I managed to multiply the startup funds quite a few times. I doubled up on my studies at school while using the same money to invest in companies that would go on to be Fortune 500 companies later on in my previous life. Many of them were just getting started at the time. During this period, Amy called me numerous times. Week after week, she'd leave a voice message, telling me that since I left, everyone in the dance team missed me a lot. She also told me she was living much better days now that she had some bonus money. Just recently, Stella tried to get into NYU but got cut during the interview. It's hilarious, the interviewer was apparently at our school jubilee. They said Stella's moonlight was a mess compared to your destiny. Man, you should have seen Stella bawling her eyes out hugging Joshua, while I was just laughing my butt off. University entrance exam results came in, and I was top of the school, third in the city. I got this news while Amy was struggling with finals from her dual degree program. Yet she gave a genuine smile. Congrats. Luna, I'm still waiting for you to come back and be friends with me. My mom would also call often, updating me on Larry's recent activities and asking how I was managing on my own, whether I had enough money. When I'd share a little about how things were going for me, she'd let out a sigh of relief mixed with worry. You're still a little girl, don't push yourself too hard, she'd say. If you ever need help, just tell Mom, okay? Don't feel embarrassed. So, I told her about Jack and had her find out more about him for me. I made sure to tell her to keep it all under wraps from Larry. I reached San Francisco a month earlier than Larry. Outside a school, while trying to find directions, I spotted a familiar face on the lawn nearby. A younger Jack. In front of him stood a tall, slender girl with short hair and glasses, glaring at him coldly. That's my research. Who gave you permission to use it without asking me for commercial deals? Jack forced a smile. What do you mean, yours or mine? We worked on it together, remember? The idea was mine, the experiment was mine. You were just my assistant for a while, helping record some data. What makes you think you have the right to make deals with my work? The girl stood her ground. Hearing her say that, Jack's expression darkened. Alice, don't be unreasonable. Graduation is just around the corner. Am I not thinking about our future? What's the point of holding on to it? Isn't finding a reliable company to develop and partner the only way to earn the maximum benefits? She interrupted him sharply. I'm saying it once more, it's my work. The girl named Alice looked at him coldly. The patent's in my name. You don't even know the core technology, yet you think you can find partners? As long as I'm alive, that's impossible. And also, we're done. From now on, you have nothing to do with me. She turned and left. Jack stood there, watching her walk away, his eyes slowly turning cold. I almost caught a glimpse of a lethal glint in his pupils. Suddenly, I understood. In my previous life, I overheard Stella asking Larry how he managed to keep someone like Jack under his thumb. At the time, Larry was lounging by the pool with her in his arms. He chuckled when he replied. That's because he needed my help. More importantly, I had never heard of this Alice person in my past life. I arranged to meet Alice. We met at a cafe far from her school, and she sat across from me. Straightforwardly, she said, Luna, I know what you're after, but I'm not selling my work. Why? I asked. She hesitated for a moment, then explained. Right now, it's just a prototype. I paused mid-sip of my coffee. I know business folks are all about commercial value, but I don't care about that. What I care about is the final result and how it can revolutionize technology for humanity. The work itself is what truly matters to me. I was captivated by her words, her face without makeup radiating indescribable brilliance when speaking of her ideals. She was a dazzling young woman. She should have been a renowned scientist with a legacy. However, because of the selfish desires of two men, she was killed in a foreign land, as insignificant as dust lost to the winds of history. Luna, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I suddenly reached my hand out to stop her. Sincerity filled my gaze. Alice, I'm willing to provide all the funds and resources you need for your research. All you need to do is help me with a little something once your work is complete. Your achievements remain yours, and the history books will bear your name. Does that sound alright? The day I returned home, the first snow fell softly, covering the ground. Hauling my suitcase out of the airport, my eyes caught an advertisement. There she was, Stella's perfectly made-up face on the billboard. These past few years, I've been overseas, busy setting up my company, trying to be ready for when Larry takes over our family group. He's been quite busy too. Even though Stella didn't get the special recruitment or make it through interviews, Larry found a way to get her into film school and she successfully debuted in the entertainment world. She's always been consistent. I smirked sarcastically and got in my car. Driving through the traffic lightly dusted with snow, I headed straight to the company. 3 days later is the bidding meeting, another crucial point. Alice and I spent 3 days at the company, making sure to get our proposal just right. At the open bidding, we effortlessly secured the contract. As the winning company was announced, I stood up and met Larry's shocked gaze next to me. You, Luna. I smiled slightly. Long time no see, brother. After the event, he chased me down the hallway, blocking my path, still a bit incredulous. PE is your company? After Alice vanished, you hid her, didn't you? You're so anxious, Larry, I laughed. What's this about hiding her? You barely know her. Why are you so obsessed with finding a living person? Hoping to pull off something illegal? And with that sharp look in his eyes, I left, laughing. Returning home, I was utterly high profile. After securing the contract, I started networking, meeting many influential business figures. With Alice's exclusive patent rights and grabbing a major project from Larry, everyone was incredibly polite and friendly. It's a whole new experience for me, as in my past life, even winning 3 Best Actress awards didn't feel like this. You've got to have control over production resources, I mused, holding up my wine glass. Amy beside me turned to scrutinize me. How come it feels like you've matured 10 years, even though you've only been gone for 4? Makes sense. At 18, you can afford to be reckless. I replied, now that I've graduated, I need to appear credible before baring my fangs. With that, I raised my paddle. 2 million. Stella, sitting in the front row, turned abruptly. Next to her, Joshua also looked over at me. Our eyes met, and he seemed momentarily distracted. I spotted the faint scar on his forehead, which struck me as amusing. 2,600,000, he countered eagerly. I knew he planned to buy that diamond bracelet as a gift for Stella since her birthday was coming up. Despite pulling some strings at the family company, his influence couldn't match Larry's. So, to earn favor, he had to seek other ways. I kept raising the bid until he won the bracelet for 6 million. Such deep affection, I chuckled. Joshua clutched the bracelet, silently watching me. After a while, he softly said, Luna. Please, you'll make me sick. I exaggeratedly stepped back, sizing him up. At least you're better than your mistress's mom, who actually managed to succeed. I just wonder how you and my brother find time for it all. My words were loud. Predictably, the moment the auction ended, my business friends were curious. I feigned reluctance. My brother and Joshua's illegitimate kid both fancy the same star. Honestly, who doesn't have a lovesick person or two? People endure anything for true love. Not only did I gossip about them, but I also entered the media scene with funds and backed new female stars. I snatched key roles right from under Stella's nose that were vital to her in our past lives. Larry couldn't bear his Stella being wronged outside, so he immediately took action against me. Just as I expected. No move, no mistake. Suddenly, my name trended alongside the company. PE founder Luna's school bullying, Luna spreading false rumors, Stella bullied. A video from a school celebration surfaced where I smashed Stella's piano, conveniently cutting the part where I played Destiny afterward. They also tracked down classmates to testify I bullied Stella in high school. Yes, Luna was always against Stella. She tore her papers, ruined her desk with ink, and led the girls to isolate her. A male student expressed indignation in the video. But since she was a rich kid, Stella couldn't fight back and just endured it. When things escalated, the school expelled her, but she went overseas to study and now is a fresh-faced company founder. The company's stock plummeted for days. Partners called, delicately asking what was happening. I knew that without a satisfactory explanation, they'd stop working with us. Please hold on, I twisted a pen in hand, assuring them business folks know not to act rashly without solid backing. Stella wasn't as composed as I'd thought. Now she loathed me more. Seeing my tarnished reputation, she seized the opportunity. In a live stream, she shared her story. I remember being asked to read in class. I studied in a village where one teacher taught everything, including mute English. Honestly, it was embarrassing. When she laughed, I realized my pronunciation was wrong. I prepared thoroughly for that school event, having learned piano for years. She spoke calmly but her eyes welled with tears at the end. Comments, perhaps gossipy viewers or Larry's hires, filled the stream. Stella, you're amazing, she's shameless. Making a fool of hard-working folks despite her rich upbringing. Wait, did no one catch how living in a village with no English teacher contradicts years of piano lessons? I laughed at that last comment. Yet it quickly drowned in a sea of responses. Her live stream raked in over 500,000 views. The next day, my dad demanded I merge PE with his company, looking stern. For years of studying abroad and you've learned nothing. You barely returned and already made a mess. Merge the company back and publicly apologize. I stared at him. Dad, understand this. It's Larry's girlfriend's doing, not a company issue. You bullied her first. He fumed, slamming the table. Disobey me, and I'll consider you not my daughter. I calmly replied, sorry, but she didn't have me. My mom did. Soon, Joshua's company and Larry's announced a partnership to crush my company, stealing several major projects from PE. Publicly, my dad declared we were no longer family. I wasn't his monstrous daughter. At the company's parking lot, I narrowly avoided a fanatic Stella follower's acid attack. He and my dad secretly conspired to use my past antics and that diagnosis to have me institutionalized. In every lifetime, all you have is these dirty tricks. Now my counterattack is about to start, brother. I was taking hit after hit, unable to fight back. Then, Stella won her first Best Actress award, and it was almost her birthday. Larry threw a huge celebration party for her. The place was decked out, super fancy, and a bunch of her fans were invited. They even had a live stream going. Stella was wearing a white cocktail dress, sweetly thanking her fans. The next part was showing videos her fans made to congratulate her. Up on the big screen, the footage started to roll. It was a bit blurry, like it was shot in secret. In a dressing room on set, another actress was fixing her makeup when Stella suddenly bumped into her. Stella took the other girl's hand and smacked herself. Then she laughed as the actress stared at her in shock. Who said you could compete with me for the role I want? You want me to play a supporting role for you? Do you know who my boyfriend is? It's Larry, the CEO of a famous company. When he sees the marks on my face, have you thought of how you'll apologize? Actually, shouldn't you think of how you'll survive after this video of you bullying me leaks and you get blacklisted? The last frame showed Stella eyeing the actress's chest with a knowing grin. No. Stella shrieked and tried to block the screen, but it was too late. Fans were already in an uproar. Among all the chaos, Stella and Larry were trending hot on social media. Stella, my boyfriend is Larry. Stella birthday live stream. Stella bullied again. The number of comments was climbing fast. Amy, sitting next to me, was furiously typing on her phone. Stella, you get bullied everywhere you go? Is the whole world out to get you? She quickly got voted to the top comment. Wow, she grabbed someone else's hand to slap herself, really went all in. Her face even swelled up. If it wasn't swollen, how would anyone believe she got bullied? Forget Stella, let's just call her a jerk. If I remember right, the movie she just won Best Actress for wasn't supposed to have her as the lead. It was another actress who was super popular until her private photos got leaked and she was blacklisted. Did Stella get the part by framing someone? There was a lot of chatter, and then another video started trending. It was shot at a foreign university, showing people of all different races. A Chinese student spoke, and the rest laughed at her imperfect pronunciation. A skinny blonde guy leading the mockery pronounced something perfectly and said, "Know what this is? This is standard English, joker." I grabbed his collar and punched him in the face. In perfect English, I shot back, "What's so funny? Do you laugh like that at your dad's funeral too?" He flipped out, wanting a showdown with me. Just got smacked again. I lightly kicked his chin with my shoe and smirked, "Know what this is? This is Chinese Kung Fu, hillbilly." The video was posted by a fellow student. I'm a girl who grew up in the mountains, almost thrown into the fire at birth. Unlike Miss Stella, we didn't have pianos in our village or benefactors giving us thousands of dollars a month. It took me nearly 30 years to dare to see the world, only to be mocked on the first day of studying abroad. I can't stand someone twisting the truth and slandering those who helped me. Comments came from all sides. Am I seeing things? Is this Luna, the one Stella said bullied her and mocked her English? Finally, someone calls it out. Who criticizes a kid from a village for playing piano for years? The timeline doesn't add up and yet people bought it. Damn, girl, you're cool. Benefactor? Isn't Stella's benefactor Larry, Luna's brother? Who knows if he's competing for inheritance, framing his own sister? Then there was a video from my 18th birthday. Stella, to get financial support, had jumped off a rooftop and accused another orphanage girl of pushing her. There was surveillance footage. Evidence of Larry hiring someone for attempted murder. He did countless shady deals with my dad to build their empire. I owe my mom big time for getting all this. Last was Joshua. He psychologically tormented his mother until she killed herself in front of his dad, all to get into high society. I threw a lot of cash at it, gathering everything from past life hints and pushing it all online. Thanks to their past actions, everyone was already watching this drama unfold. The illegal stuff blew up real fast. Gossip circles reported it to the police in a snap. They didn't have anywhere near the influence to cover it up now. People who try to manipulate public opinion will end up buried by it. Are you satisfied with how this ends? The day my dad and Larry were taken by the police, my mom slammed down divorce papers. Larry couldn't believe it. He shouted, "Mom, aren't I your son? Why do you favor Luna? I'm your child too." My mom sighed, "Your dad favors you, I favor your sister." She sat down, sipping her tea. Fair's fair in this world, don't you think? The projects the two companies stole from me collapsed one after another. Now they had economic crime on top of everything. I took over the weakened company, merging it with PE. Then I went to meet Emma, who took back control of Joshua's family company. She's Joshua's half-sister. Her parents were in a business marriage. I used to hate that woman, thinking she ruined my family. Later, I realized if my dad hadn't cheated, Joshua wouldn't exist. She sipped her coffee, dying at her own son's hands was fitting punishment. I reached out to her a year ago and made a deal. I'd help her oust Joshua and give her full control. The catch? She needed to assist me in many domestic deals. This social media war was largely her doing. By the way, how did you figure out his mom's death was his fault? She asked, curious. I just smiled, staying quiet. Because in a previous life, he did the same to me. Before sentencing, I visited my old pals in prison. First up was my brother. He gave me a death glare. I just laughed, "Don't look at me like that, brother. I know what you're about to ask." Getting kicked out like a stray dog, yeah, I've been through that once. You didn't think I'd been living it up abroad, partying non-stop all these years, did you? During the most exhausting times, I could only snatch a few moments of shut-eye here and there. Apart from classes and company matters, I've been hustling to make connections with people. I dug through clues from my past life to find evidence against these 3 people who did wrong. Their tricks were so slick and merciless, I was sure it wasn't their first time. Bad people don't just show their hand in front of me, there's bound to be more darkness hidden away where I can't see. I was right. Larry, Dad always said I'm nothing like his daughter. He's made you into a tyrannical thug, someone who breaks the rules to get what they want, laws be damned. Lucky for me, I'm not like him. The second person I visited was Stella. She looked disheveled, her eyes weary. Through the glass, her gaze was filled with a hatred that seemed ready to swallow me whole. She couldn't keep up the Stella act anymore and demanded why I hadn't shown my evidence sooner if I had it all along. What's the point of pretending to be weak? Of course, it's entertaining, otherwise, why would you have kept it up for so long, right? I stood up. It's way more fun to let you think you've won it all. Why not release the evidence sooner? Because it's never enough. Let her believe she's won big, that she has it all. And then, just before the dawn, watch it all crumble to ashes. That's what I experienced in my past life. But this time, it's your turn. The last person I wanted to see was Joshua. Honestly, I didn't really want to see him. Stella and I have been enemies all along. And there's that blood connection with Larry. But with Joshua, once my love for him disappeared, we had nothing left between us. However, the cops told me Joshua wanted to see me. So, through a pane of glass, we sat face to face. He stared at me quietly for a while. Just as I was about to get up, a bit annoyed, "What do you want from me?" "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he started quietly. "The company should have been mine, and we should have been engaged." I stopped, turning back sharply. He looked straight at me, eyes dark and unreadable. I looked at his face, and if not for the faint scar on his forehead, there was a split second where I thought I was seeing the Joshua from my previous life. But then, it all felt ridiculous and laughable. Only engaged? Why not mention what came after? You got everything you have off my back and teamed up with Larry to kill me. But, after a long, long time, I regretted it. He said hoarsely. "It's just, you didn't know. I really wish you could know. Too ridiculous. Too funny. Yeah, I already died, I obviously didn't know." I turned back, leaning on the glass, looking at him, and said, word by word. "But even if I knew, so what? Who cares about your regrets? This time, I'm the one who wins, and you're the one going to hell. Joshua, it's what you deserve." Winter came early that year. By the time I left, the sky outside was dark. Alice called, saying she'd be leaving for abroad after New Year, to start a new experiment at the Research Institute. I said all right and wished her the best. Once I hung up, Amy's message popped up on message, saying she was already at the hot pot place and told me to hurry up and pay. I laughed and replied with an "on my way." Outside the car window, a crescent moon hung high in the sky, lighting up a corner of the inky night. Once this night passes, and the moon sets, my sun will rise again.